I find this scene absolutely hilarious. The new villain, Yhwach, comes in and is like, hey Aizen, you want to join my group? And Aizen's like, no. And refuses to elaborate, and so Yhwach just walks off. I think this is just easily one of the funniest, unironically funniest scenes in Bleach, just because of Aizen being straight up just Aizen. And also, you know it's going to be a good episode of Bleach when even when Aizen is within the episode, he's really not the focus and he's not the main talked about topic in the episode. The only reason why I started off this video talking about it is because once I start talking about Yamamoto and, Yhwach's fight, it's not going to be something I'm probably going to be able to stop talking about. So I'm talking about this Aizen stuff first. But anyways, I really like how Yhwach, this new villain that is introduced in this arc, he comes up, he meets the OG villain, and is like, hey man, you want to join me? And Aizen's like, nah, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I don't like how you're trying to act like a Soul Reaper or whatever. Just not doing it, and just that's it. And also, Yhwach himself even admits to Aizen, like, it would take too long to eliminate you, it'd be too difficult, it's not worth the hassle, basically saying that Aizen is just straight up immortal. There's just nothing they really can do to stop Aizen, so it's just like, he's just gonna leave him tied there, locked up against his little chair or whatever, and that's about it. And I find the entire interaction hilarious, and I think everybody can agree with me, that's just absolutely hilarious, but a very typical, Aizen moment. But okay, anyways, let's talk about everything else. So this episode is... okay, I think everybody at this point that has watched this episode can all agree that this is probably the best Bleach has ever looked. This is 100% the best that Bleach has ever looked for its entire anime run. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't scenes that stand out or are potentially on par with this. Like the Ulquiorra versus, Kurosaki Ichigo stuff a long time ago, many, many years ago, definitely is still a hallmarker for the story. But you're still not going to tell me, in terms of modern techniques and just how animation and art has improved with anime, just how it's done nowadays, like these different techniques, that this is at the very least the best we've ever seen a full episode of Bleach look. It is a gorgeous episode, and I really just love all the different lighting and colors throughout this episode. Like, oh my goodness, I absolutely just love the flame effects on Yamamoto, and just the way it is drawn here. Just shout outs to everyone that worked on this, because it's like, I cannot imagine how difficult it was to draw and animate this episode. Like, think about this, okay? With all the individual movement of, like, the flames and stuff, but with the characters, like with Yamamoto, you gotta imagine how difficult this is to kind of present in a very cohesive way to kind of understand what's going on the screen. Because, like, honestly, when you see everything within this episode, the flames get just so out of control, but for the artist and the animators to be able to temper it in such a way to where you're still able to understand what's visually on screen with the different color palette and the different flames, like the Quincy flames, like the blue flame, to the regular flame from Yamamoto, they did a really good job with this. And just in terms of the look and the color department, this is a absolutely beautiful looking episode, and as I already said, it is probably the best Bleach has ever looked. Now, let's talk about some of the things that I think that is very important. Let's talk about this fight. Let's talk about Yamamoto. Let's talk about what we got to witness here. Even this CGI moment with the skeletons. I believe this is CGI. It looks like CGI. Maybe it's a weird looking, 2D animation. Regardless of whatever it is, I really like the uncanny look of the skeletons here. And I know people might think I'm memeing on that or I'm trying to put the episode down. I'm not. I think the way the skeletons really pop and they look very distinguished in comparison to, let's say, the background art really makes this scene very unsettling. I think that this really adds a lot of character to this scene when, you see this fake Yhwach get swarmed by the dead comrades, the subordinates, and just completely surround him. It's a really good scene. I love the take with this, because, like I said, the skeletons really pop with the color and the art and all that with the backgrounds. It's just fitting. And when you look at this ability as well, it kind of looks like Yamamoto's like the master of hell itself. He looks like he's literally like Satan or the devil, and that these skeletons are like, just the damned rising up out of the fiery pits of hell to be able to fight the enemies for the devil or Satan or whatever. I just think that this is a really nice artistic approach that Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, did, and it's just been wonderfully brought to life with this episode. And just like, yeah, I'm sounding like a broken episode, but it really is a straight up beautiful episode. Just shout outs to everyone that worked on this, because this is absolutely fantastic. Now, let's take a few moments to talk about a few things when it comes to, like I said, the fight. So this fight, as we kind of find out, and I want to be honest with you, as a guy that read the manga, I forgot a lot of details, and I've made that very clear. I've constantly said I don't remember everything, because it's been literally like almost over a half a decade to a decade at this time for some things, and I've forgotten a lot. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I forgot that the Yhwach that, Yamamoto is fighting was a fake Yhwach. I legitimately forgot about that. Like, when this reveal happened at the end of the episode, kind of find out he was just talking with Aizen, I was like, oh yeah, that did happen, and that literally slipped my mind. I legitimately completely forgot about that, and I was just like, oh crap, like, that's just like, wow, I should have known that. But I don't know if I'm the only one that kind of forgot about that little detail, but it was nice. It was a nice little surprise and all that, because it's like the entire episode really was building up that, Yamamoto is going to win. And the way this fight concludes is such a interesting direction, because it once again shows the power of Yamamoto. So let's talk about that. So basically, if we look at what this episode tried to show us, is that Yamamoto is OP. I mean, it's obvious, but he's very OP. And the only way that Yhwach, the Quincy King, is able to stop him is by stealing his Bankai. But he admits himself in this conversation, he wanted Yamamoto to tire himself out. He wanted Yamamoto to use his ability for basically he could come in and attack him from behind and get rid of him. Kind of saying he's doing this clever, shady tactics to be able to get rid of Yamamoto's abilities. And this is, in a way, the exact same thing that Aizen did. I mean, think about Wonder Weiss and all that, with Aizen kind of stealing Yamamoto's abilities back in, when Aizen was the main villain. When you look at this, it's just like, all these villains, like Aizen and Yhwach, they always have to do these really shady tactics to get rid of Yamamoto. And once again, we're seeing that. It shows the might of him and how strong he is. He is not someone you could just really beat in a straight-up battle. And so it makes a lot of sense if you look at it from that perspective of why Yamamoto did not know that this was a fake Yhwach. So let's talk about that. I think that's a very good segue to get into the next segment. So let's talk about how Yamamoto did not know that this was a fake Yhwach, because when you think about their fight that happened 1,000 years ago that this episode kind of presents, you'd think that Yamamoto would know. He would know that this is a fake Yhwach by his interactions, what he does, etc. And there was a few moments that did obviously tip this off. Like, Yamamoto says himself, oh, you're showing a little bit of emotion. You do have some humanity in you, don't you? And so everything about that just shows that there was things that was tipping us off that this isn't the OG. But the thing is Yamamoto is just so overwhelmingly powerful that the villains have to use shady tactics to, get rid of his powers. And so no villain really wants to straight up fight him. He's just that overwhelmingly powerful. So because of that, Yamamoto probably hasn't really had a really strong opponent to fight. And so everyone from his perspective is legitimately weak. Like, legitimately weak and can't really do much to him. Which kind of shows a lot about Chojuro and how, he really respect him and why, he was so sad with his death and why he felt like, the Bankai that was used against him was weak is because he felt like he would probably get one shot by it. And only losing an arm, it's just like, really? I only lost an arm when I know for a fact my subordinate probably would be able to one-shot me? It shows just how he views certain people around him, but also he's just too strong as well. Anyways, getting to the point, thanks to him not understanding how strong probably Yhwach was, because it's such a curb stomp, that's why he wasn't able to detect that it wasn't him. He's never really fought a proper opponent. I feel like if, for instance, Yamamoto was able to fight Aizen, like when Ichigo fought him, like at the end of the arc, I feel like Yamamoto would have a better grasp on who's really strong. And this fight obviously does show that, there is no way in particular that this opponent, this fake Yhwach, was as strong as Aizen at the end of his arc. I think we can all agree on that. So, yeah, I think legitimately this is an interesting direction that the story took, and I think Tite Kubo did a really good job with this, because I know some people might get upset, it's like, oh, really? It just happens, he loses like that, but I think it's a really smart tactic to show that the Quincy King is not someone that's going to just do a straight-up fight if he knows he can't win. He will straight-up do shady tactics to win, because Yamamoto is just that OP. Now, speaking of OP, let's talk about his abilities. At long last, for the first time in 10 years, we've all been waiting, Yamamoto's Bankai has been showcased in anime form. And it's beautiful. I mean, I've said that word a lot in this video, but it is absolutely a beautiful episode showing different forms of it, like the east, the west, the north, the south. I think that just everything about the different directions he points his, Zanka no Tachi is... I love it. It's so great, and I'm so happy to be able to hear the words from Yamamoto's voice actor just say Bankai. It's, as I said, Bankai is, like, iconic. Like, that word is iconic, and just seeing this iconic character use something like that, it is just a treat for the eyes. Now, I do like how this episode shows just how strong Yamamoto's Bankai is. Like, him using Bankai caused all the flames to compress into his blade, and the entire Soul Society started to feel it, and it was desert-like conditions. Everything about the scene is scary to show just the wide radius of his ability, how strong he really is, even though he condensed the ability within his sword, but also, like, wrapping himself up in, like, 15 million degrees Celsius, like, fire armor, just everything about that, just, it is ridiculous. It is a ridiculous usage of abilities, and he really, like he said, if he was to use his Bankai for long periods of time, he would 100% destroy Soul Society. It's that broken. So it makes a lot of sense why he doesn't use it as much, because if he did, it would kill everybody. Now, one last thing I do want to add in before I kind of wrap up this video, though. I want to talk about Yamamoto's rage, his blind rage. So, this has been a big part of his character for a few episodes now, that, this rage has been boiling inside of him. And we can also look at the reason why he didn't know Yhwach was fake, is that he was just so blinded by rage, and because he was so blinded by rage, that he wasn't able to see it was the fake one. We can also view it as that as well. So because of this blinding rage is why he probably lost as well, and I think that is a nice characteristic to show that everything was kind of built up to force Yamamoto in this corner to where he would lose like this. It's good writing, honestly. I really do like that. But I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it. But with that, stay safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.